there's an article on Namibian News Digest who sourced the Namibian Press Agency, quoting you when you were appointed. You said there's a 90-day plan which is divided into 3 phases and will kickstart your term through assessing the organization, looking at how and where you can improve, and then building on the success stories. Looking back now, can you elaborate on the progress made during the 3 phases of your 90-day plan when you started your journey in Namibia?
Yeah, Arafa, thank you for the opportunity. It's always great to talk about I would say a loved sport code, and this time around 2 years and a bit, it's rugby specific. And yes, that when I applied for this position, or you can call it headhunt, either way, but I'm here with the union. There was what you call it a 9-day plan. In what would the first 90 days, a 90-day plan, what would it look like? But everyone knows when John walked in on the 14th of March in 2022, it was not what I expected. It was then the previous board resigned, and it was basically a nightmare, to be honest. I'm going to be brutal and I'm going to be honest. But what did rugby need at that specific time? Someone that was calm, staff that was ready to do their part, and an organization that needed to move forward, because that was in the same year that we had to qualify for the World Cup. So it almost became the 90-day plan had to become part of immediate action and operations. So during that time, and I'm gonna giving you just bits and pieces of the 90-day plan, was to first do a research within the union. What is already in plan or in place, that is with regards to sponsors, with the whole strategic plan, and then also what was the outcome of doing all those checks and balances, if I have to put it in short. Did the 90-day plan come to its complete or cycle? I would say over a period of the first World Cup year, it had to be extended. And did we reach certain goals after that 90-day plan? It became almost a calendar year plan. I would say yes, number one. Was there any controversial ending to the league and competitions, the domestic competition?
In that year?
In that year, yeah. As far as my memory can serve me, I believe we had a smooth, the league came to a smooth or a rightful ending. It was concluded we qualified for the World Cup. We had to deal with our existing partners. We had to basically work with our council. New board was elected. So was the plan according to the plan? Not entirely. Did we survive? Yes, we did.
So when I look at the Namibia Rugby Union, I see an organization that is somewhat trying to transform, for lack of a better word. But it's also not a revamp of its brand identity of what Namibia Rugby is, or how the public perceives Namibia Rugby to be. Which brings me to the question of what is the overarching vision for the Namibia Rugby Union? What specific focal points do you believe are crucial for achieving that vision?
Well, I'm going to run a few bullet points, because that's quite crucial that the broader community, rugby supporters, lovers understand that the overarching goals that needs to be achieved. We need to look at our talent development. We need to look at financial stability, community engagement, strategic stakeholder and partnership engagement, and that list can go on. But I think the word that would stand out for me is stability on all phases. Whether we're going to do talent development, coaching excellence, the financial aspects, I will touch on that again. But I just believe that more so rugby needs some kind of, I would say, calm down. Let's stabilize the sport code and realize why are we coming to watch the game of rugby? Why are we following the game of rugby? Why are we doing interviews? Why are we writing articles? why are we administrating the sport? Is to make sure that we have, at the end of the day, a product, a brand. And you mentioned something quite interesting. Are we looking to revamp the brand or change the brand? I believe coming in from a different sport code, you cannot, and that was a hardest lesson for me. When I walked in, well, this is not cricket, this is rugby. It's got its own identity, it's got its own life, because it's a rich history that reaches well over 100 years within Namibia. It's perspective. So, is that in line with our goals? Like I said, overarching. Yes, certain things need to remain in place, and we just need to basically add. And where there are changes needed, we make the necessary changes. But that only comes with research. Yeah.
Just to touch on what you just said before we move on to the next one. For example, when we speak of talent development, how would you go about it? Like materialistically, like how would you go about? How does the NRU go about talent development? What are you looking to do in terms of that? Like I'm not gonna go through like say just some of the things. Like in the case of like specifically talent development, which touches a bit onto grassroots. What is the plan?
In the ideal world, if you look at the development pathway, we call it a pathway.
Yeah.
That's a long-term athlete pathway, but in a different sport code, it's basically long-term athlete participation. So you start as a mere child, getting involved with the sport, getting exposed to the sport, try the sport, love the sport, stay within the sport. And that is how you grow through the different age groups. And then after retirement, you get involved as an administrator because you've been in the pathway, pipeline, if we can call it that. However, when it comes to the context of rugby specific, and that is one of our biggest challenges that we are, I can call it a challenge because a challenge is something that you can overcome. So you've got the grassroots involvement. So you actually, there's a lot of Indian chiefs, but there's no Indians. So Indian is in the perspective of development, a development officer that goes out and does the work. If I have to speak of my previous experience, that is where I come from. I was a development officer working involved with soccer with kids, introducing the sport code. Then I went through the process of getting involved with age groups under 11, 13, 15, 16, 18, 19. That is just to give you a brief idea what the development structures or pathways should look like. But in this state, at this moment in time, the NRU involvement, and we are definitely going to change that with the support of the Ministry of Sport and the NSSU, is to get involved at age school level, primary school and secondary level. So there is a footprint or involvement, grassroots, getting to rugby. Then all of a sudden there's the next involvement is at under 20 level. So that window of development, it's non-existent. And that is from the union side. But there's a technicality that's before our time. So are we going to delve into that? No. We're going to get into we want to get into a partnership with the government and the NSSU to get involved, identify a player at the age of 13 years old, 15 years old. By the time he or she plays under 18, they are not training while they're supposed to compete. They are competing and not participating. That's in short.
So, I think there was a week when the under-20 team was in Zimbabwe. I think I speak for all rugby fans if I say that when the Rugby World Cup finishes, NRU typically goes on snooze, like typically just goes on a low, quiet mode. And I'll give you guys preps, like I'll give you guys credits where you really deserve this. It was announcement after announcement after announcement, and I was also part of the rugby community that was like, man, what are they doing, And seeing that, like that was just something massive. So you guys announced numerous sponsorships. Which seem to really cater for pivotal bodies in rugby. We don't really need to speak at a larger extent about it, but can we break them down one by one and speak about how you see these partnerships contributing to player development, referee development, coach development, and sustainability of rugby in Namibia. Also, if it's possible, can we start with vehicle partner with Nissan and speak in the order of how they were announced and why you guys chose to announce, to roll out the announcements the way you did?
Well, Arafat, yes. I just think it comes with a type of research that was done last year. And it's something sometimes it's dangerous to do that, but I believe for the love of from the community side, why don't we share everything? And that is the process, because anything that happens within the union becomes a content. A content that's shared becomes news, that's information.
Yeah.
So a partnership like Pupkewitz Nissan is quite crucial for the union, because historically it was whenever there's a program, and not all staff members, whoever gets involved with a sport code needs to understand the following: you're not going to get involved to become rich. That's number one. So if I'm alluding to that, it means that some of my staff members, even before my time, did not have transport to go to wherever there was a program, because we've got educational training and education, we've got the Get Into Rugby program, and those programs needed transport. If you look at someone like Alistair, who's the coach, the high performance manager that was here last year from World Rugby, these are costs that were not occurred, because now you have to pay for a vehicle that needs to be rented. That's saving on rental immediate. So that's crucial, and that's connecting or closing down the distance between the union and our council members that's based outside of Windhoek. So I would say that is a massive contribution from Nissan Pupkewitz, making the roads a bit shorter in style, to be honest with you. Yes. Yeah.
You guys then announced Ongos Valley, partnership with Ongos Valley for sevens. Came really at a shock for me. Can you break that down for us, like in terms of the future of sevens rugby and sustainability of the category?
No. I mean, if I may, if I'm not going to get crucified after saying this, like cricket, the longer version exists, and then there's a shorter version, and that is the version where people would want to come, still have their shopping action or programs running in the morning, or their commitments to the family, and then come in the afternoon and come watch the game, the shorter version of the game. So I believe that like T20, the sevens or the tens version can be that. And apart from that, there is also a platform where I believe Namibia Rugby can once again become a powerhouse, and that is, but we need to take baby steps. And we need to recognize, are we going to work outside, basically inside out? Because at the end of the day, we are an organization that needs to produce quality after quality, and that if you want to create quality or produce a quality product, you need to basically make sure that your production line is in order. So we started way at the bottom. What is the bottom? It's getting an investor that's got an appetite to invest in a sevens program. That was Ongos, because if you look at the company profile, they built a house from scratch. They developed we can call it an estate, or in basically between mountains, Gammams, I mean, of all places. So that was a fit. We want to start something from scratch, and that is where Ongos came on board. And there's a bit of I would say a value added component getting Ongos Valley involved. It's also empowering a club like Western Suburbs, who's part of the union in this partnership, and who's going to basically be responsible for all the administration. And that is also training while we are working, hosting an event. So there's a lot of components contributing to that. So that's a 5-year agreement. This year it will be first kicking off with the competition. And then also year 2 will then include a national sevens team.
Do you have a date?
For
the sevens?
The sevens, yes. The first matches will kick off on the 14th or the 21st of September. We will also have the 28th of September. There will be a double header, and then we will finish on the 5th of October here at the Agricultural Stadium. Yeah.
And then I think we just covered 2 more, so that we don't lose track of time. JSB betting came through for the Namibia referees, who are typically, if you follow the conversation on social media, these are guys who are typically under fire, you know, and also the response is also that, you know, we do this for the love of the game, but now there's the sponsorship that comes. Does it, how does it provide and how does it equip the referees, the sponsorship, with the partnership with JSP?
Yeah, I mean, if you and I'm going to keep it quite short in the sense that for as long as I can remember my 2 years, I haven't seen a referee getting any remuneration for his or her effort.
Yeah.
And I think that is where JSB betting saw the need to extend the involvement with the NRU. And I mean, the referee needs to get to a field as far as Lutherits or Runnymede. There's a match there. There will be matches played across Namibia. I think that is crucial for us to have the referees kitted in a quality attire, get them to travel safely overnight, be as fresh as possible to officiate the game. And no one realizes that the referee stood up 6 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, drove 400 kilometers, sometimes 800 kilometers, and they need to officiate 2 matches, not getting paid and being abused on a rugby field. I just think that is shame on us as administrators and rugby lovers. I'm not going to be blunt. I just think it's high time, and that is where JSB betting saw the need to get further involved with the NRU.
And then the deal with Windhoek NBL.
NBL, Windhoek, NBL, yeah.
The deal with NBL was, it's not the typical deal that we see. I think there was a bit of a switch this time. Can you just elaborate more on the deal and how you guys used to work with them, how you guys are going to work with them moving forward?
Yeah, I would say historically it was a sponsorship directed at the Walvisia national team only.
Yeah.
But I think it was this time around with all the focus that went 2022 and 2023 was all focus had to be on the World Cup. And I just think board had made a very good decision to say, you know what, let's look after our clubs. Let's start looking that way first before we go the other way. And also with there was new requirements from the Heineken NBL agreement, and that is something I'm proud to say that the NRU ticked off all the boxes, because it was a process that took over 6 months, and it's not easy. If you have to tick 20 boxes, you can't turn up with 19 and a half. You have to tick all of them. And the bold decision was to invest a big percentage in our club competitions, and that's from Premier, First Division, and Women's Rugby.
Okay. And then looking at sustainable ways outside of sponsorships financially, how does World Rugby funding model looks like for Namibia? How does it look like now after a Rugby World Cup, and then after we've qualified? Could you just shed some light on the differences?
Yeah, I mean, World Rugby funding it's quite straightforward.
Yeah.
It's not at the level where the cricket funding coming from cricket. There's 2 different worlds. It's like day and night in different eras, to be honest. Is that during the World Cup you get funding for World Cup preparation, and after the World Cup it's 3 years before the next World Cup cycle. Then you're basically running on a less 60% of that funding that's in the World Cup. And it's kind of the advice, I mean, the struggle that most of the tier 2 countries are sitting with is that there's this massive boost of financial support in the World Cup year, but after World Cup you have to basically fend for yourself, and it's definitely not the same. How does the structures work? That will be with the EOGM coming up. That will be basically made open to clubs to see that World Rugby funding is program specific. If it's high performance, you have to allocate the funding. If it's allocated to high performance, you can only use it in high performance. If it's basically nutrition, if it's equipment, if it's hosting of matches specific, you cannot move it around. The same with the development funding, yeah.
So do they have a development funding?
Yeah, there is a development funding.
How does NRU distribute that? What are your focal points regarding?
The focal points decided by World Rugby.
Okay.
And we basically stay within that. It's training and education. That is women's rugby is now part of the development, not now, but it's part of the development funding support that actually now can, and that's why we've got a strong program. I would say a strong program. We're running a program in the latter part of after the season. We're running a women's rugby specific program.
All right. Talking about coming to national teams, just want to focus a bit on, reflect a bit on the Rugby World Cup. So before the Rugby World Cup, Alistair Coutier added what I would call premium coaches like Brian Pinar, Matt Proudfoot, amongst other names, to his technical team for the 2023 Rugby World Cup. The names are correct, right? Is our current national team coaching model Namibian friendly? Is our current national team coaching model Namibian friendly? And when I say Namibian friendly, is that are we equipping Namibian national coaches to get to a point where they can lead the nation? Because I remember the last time we had, I think interim Robin Dixon was. The last time we had a Namibian coach at the World Cup was 2011. What are some of the steps NRA has taken to ensure that we have better equipped local coaches?
You mentioned something quite interesting. In the previous World Cup, there was a Namibian or two Namibians or a Namibian involved. And I'm glad that you've taken it from that angle. That was a 4-year build-up process. Because after the 2015 World Cup, there was a process started immediately. That was the World Cup campaign 2019. No excuses. We take responsibility. When we walked in 2022, that was the same year as the qualifier. Then you have to submit a World Cup campaign plan, and that campaign plan must tick off all the boxes according to World Rugby requirements. And World Rugby sets that tone, what needs to be in place, what must be in place. Coming in after the World Cup, I just think we've got the opportunity to upskill our local coaches. And that is why the regional competition, the regional 15s competition becomes a crucial component. Because at that level, that's a gap that's going to be narrowed between, or closed between club to, before you get to the Valvice side, you need to play in your regional team. We're going to have the same structures as, we're going to have a coach, assistant coach, managers, S&C, physios. So that is the platform where we're going to generate the opportunity or create opportunity for coaches to form part of that potential cycle of becoming a coach in the World Cup.
Then coming to the player side of things, you guys have announced sponsorships, been active this year, but one can't help but notice that there is a slight absence of the national team rugby captain. I don't know whether he's still captain, but he was the previous captain, Johan Deso, and also franchise captain Prince Gausser from NRU's visibility. This raises questions about the union's utilization of its key ambassadors. How do you perceive the role of the national team captain in representing the values and aspirations of the NRU? And what steps will be or are taken to ensure their visibility and involvement in NRU initiatives and promotions? To be fair, from your side, you've done that last year very well with, especially with the Valvice players. But the question moves forward. Moving forward, how do these guys blend into your values and aspirations as an organization?
Well, I just think it's let's start with Prince. Prince he's actually taken up studies, and he wants a break from rugby, so he's not actually playing. So he wants a break, and I just think coming from a hard year and 18 months, he deserves that. The same, Johan Deso returned back from how many years abroad, and I know he played a few games, and there are currently discussions between me and the coach, that's Alistair, on the way forward. And I just think there is a need that we engage more on this platform. But I just think there's an old saying that's in Afrikaans, agter ons kom ook in die kraal. So we've got a lot of things to do. So what is the perfect time? The perfect time will be when a player is ready and when the platform is ready, to have that opportunity for players, and that is open. I mean, it's not that we don't do that or we won't do that. It is there. Yeah.
Looking back at the 2023 Rugby World Cup, what was the diagnosis from the NRU standpoint, and how do we rectify and improve moving forward?
Yeah, I've said it earlier. I think let's summarize it down as the outcome. What did we learn?
Yeah.
We've learned that we cannot accept preparing over a year and 8 months. If you put that all the time together, the camps, how many hours was actually spent, and Namibia still committed to turning up at the World Cup. And if you have to calculate all those time slots that we had over a period of a year and 8 months, I don't think it will be more than 2 months. So in all fairness, if you look at the time that the All Blacks, I'm going to name the teams that we played against: All Blacks, Italy, that's France. They spent roughly a minimum of 8 months, consecutive 8 months, or spread over a year in a camp, as a team. That is one of the challenges, that the lessons learned. That if we can have that consistent camps, be in a training environment, daily training environment, a longer period of time, that can change. If we can have contracted players, the financial support to contract players, we can have them in Namibia playing in a Currie Cup over a longer period of time. I think that's I know that's the fact. That's a fact. How long can we have and consistently can we have our players in a rugby Namibia environment?
Some of our international players coming for the test match and the warm-up game.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this following answer. Let's wait and see who's coming. There's exciting times ahead. Yes, we are playing the Blue Bulls on the 29th of June, and then Portugal on the 13th of July. But this time around, if a player wants to represent Namibia, that player will put up his hand and say, I want to come represent my country. And believe me, that feeling is there. Players want to represent Namibia. But let's see. There's local boys also putting up their hands. And I'm going to add that I'm not sure if it's part of the end of any question. But the Africa Cup, we will focus, because we're working towards 2027 and 2031. That's the vision, to have most of our local-based players. If I say local-based players that plays in our Premier League, in our regional competition, to represent Namibia in the Africa Cup, because this is the one year that we can start rebuilding.
Okay. You guys recently announced the training squad. Could you shed some light on how preparations is going? Obviously, when I ask these questions, I'm not asking from a technical and analytical side of it. It's just looking at working with clubs, working with players. How has that been? And moving forward towards this warm-up match and this test match, how is the feeling and the mood around the national team?
Well, I will not be able to go into depth when it comes to the technical aspects anyways.
Yes.
So when it comes to the turning up of players turns up on a Monday and a Wednesday, and they work closely now with our support staff, and I believe the prep is well on its way. We will only have players coming back in June, some of the players coming back in June. And do we have enough time? No, but Namibia will do what Namibia has been doing for the last couple of years. As brave as we are and should be, we will play the Blue Bulls, we will take them on the 29th, and the players will take the field and run with high spirits as brave warriors into the Blue Ones. We will turn the stadium on its head on that specific day.
Could you shed some light on who the support staff are?
Support staff is the same team that was involved with the Currie Cup. That is Krisander, Botha, then it's Rowan Kitshoff, and then Jaco Engels. So that Jaco Engels, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on something that we didn't touch on, which brings us close to the end of the episode. And that's women's rugby. We've mentioned that you guys will have something for them that's going to focus on them and the game of women's rugby. it's also noticeable that the national women's team has been ups and downs. It's been a while since we've seen them come together and then play matches. How does the Namibia Rugby Union prioritize the development and support of women's rugby within its overall strategy? What specific actions are being taken to ensure equitable opportunities for female players to compete at national levels?
I think we learned a valuable lesson last year when we sent a underprepared team to participate in a competition in South Africa, playing against the likes of South Africa in Zimbabwe. And we're going to take a lesson out of the book of what South Africa did a few years ago. They withdrew from all international participation. I'm not saying we're going to do, but just take a page of that book. Before South Africa participated on the international platform, they were absent. Like any other country, they are absent. Uganda is absent. Botswana also plays. They are absent. So what are we going to do? We need to make sure that we develop our women's rugby quality in Namibia first. Then we go out. Remember I alluded to, are we going to go out and in or in and out? Working on that perspective. See this as a production company. We want to have a quality product. And we must make sure that we've got the right product that we're going to put out at the end of the day. And it's fair to the women's rugby to say that we're going to treat them as the same way we're going to treat the men's competition. But the men's rugby is light years ahead. But the sevens, so that's a good example. We're going to put building blocks in place. So that's from my side. What are we going to do differently? We need to approach it with a realistic vision. Let's focus on what's happening locally.
End of June and July is going to be a very good month for Namibian rugby. What are some of the things that we will see happen? How is it looking like? How's preparations going?
I'm going to answer you in the following way. What is in place with regarding to the team prepping for the warm-up game against the Bulls? That is Alistair leading his team, getting the players here that's available to turn up on practices and prepare as well as they can for that warm-up game against the Blue Bulls. And then have the strongest Namibian representative team on the field on the 13th of July. Looking forward to the Africa Cup participation, to have the strongest local-based team going to the Africa Cup. Yes, there will also be opportunity for the international player if that if his program allows him to participate in that. And then I can go further by saying that's not just going to be the end of rugby in Namibia. End of July, coming back as the defending champions in the Africa Cup. And remember, I also said we are rebuilding, sending a young team. If I say young team, I'm not referring to age, or am I alluding to young in number of test matches played? Let's wait until the team will be announced. Then there is the league, local domestic league, finishing at the end of October. Then after that, we move over to our newly established competition. That's the August Sevens, and then that will be ending the season with the regional 15s. So I just think it's a long season for the NRU. And are we trying to revamp the game? No. Rugby will always be rugby, contact sport, something that I'm still getting used to. Is it something that we want? What do we want to change? There's not a question. We just want to change the perspective of love. Just keep on loving the game. Companies to invest, because we're not investing. The union is not. If everyone walks out, you walk out of the union, it's just an empty shell. We blow life into the organization. So does the companies that invest in the union. So yeah.
We see the Africa Cup?
Now, I believe it all depends on when we, and I think that's also a realistic comment to make, is that we will host test matches in Namibia. We want to host test matches in Namibia, only if it's financially viable to host it. I mean, to host the Currie Cup, just food for thought. No one knows what it cost the union to host a Currie Cup game here in Namibia. No one knows about it. No one asks about it. But yet everyone wants the game. It was because when you play in the Currie Cup, you are responsible as a union to pay all expenses for the South African teams to come to Namibia. That is the agreement that South African Rugby puts on the table. And per game cost us 852,000 per match. Because now it's like, why is it so expensive? Try to book a flight the week of your traveling, and try to book a flight a month before you travel. So no coach in any sport coach will give you a team, final team or squad 2 months before, a month before your event. So I'm just leaving that out there.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on our platform. Hope to speak to you again.
No, definitely.